Hello, America, and welcome to the Wednesday night special. Tonight, I want to take you through 7 questions that I have that I think need to be answered. A lot of us right now are still trying to process not only what happened during the election, but what it means going forward. Republicans are about to start a long primary that will determine who's going to direct their narrative and their messaging for years going forward. Do they even get it? And the Democrats, the party of JFK, that's dead, no longer exists. Progressivism is what they turned to in the old-timey days of Hillary Clinton. It was a name that used to be a dirty 4-letter word, but it is now openly bragged about, and it is the cornerstone of their ideology. Marxism is there, and when we have a Marxist progressive party, they have 2 primary goals: the redistribution of wealth and the transfer of power. That is your wealth and your power. But now they not only lost the House, they're also facing a very dangerous new reality. I want you to take a look at this graphic. This was before the vote. This is a snapshot before it was announced that Republicans officially seized control. Democrats lost what they coveted most, the popular vote. They have neither the political capital nor the social contract to redistribute your wealth and take away your power. But where does that leave Joe Biden? Well, that leaves him with a whole lot of executive orders. And if you're curious on what to expect over the next 2 years, all you have to do is look at the many unanswered questions that are just kind of floating out. Nobody really even talks about them. And there are a lot. I'm only going to get to a few of them tonight. There are so many secrets now floating around. We could reboot the TV show Unsolved Mysteries. I could get a fedora and a trench coat, talk a little like Robert Stack. All of these unsolved mysteries are pointing to something. All of them. Just before we went on Thanksgiving holiday, Congressman Chip Roy hit the nail right on the head. He said that the Biden administration has effectively weaponized the federal government against the American people. That is right. That's exactly what we're looking at now. And it's only going to get worse from now until 2024. Congressman Roy also said this, quote, "The American people need to see a lot of things that they have not been seeing, but then you need to connect that with the actions of the government." This is what concerns me, because what they are purposely keeping out of your sight directly correlates with the federal government that is now being weaponized against you. So what is it that they're hiding? And maybe more importantly, how do these cover-ups reveal to us what they are building? Honestly, they come out and tell you in so many ways, and their actions always speak louder than words. But then they always deny it as a conspiracy theory until, boom, there it is. The answers lie in the questions of these unsolved mysteries. We need to demand some answers to some of these right now. These are dormant questions. Here are just a few. Let's really get down to what happened on January 6th, shall we? We all saw the mob rush into the Capitol, and it was bad. But why are we not allowed to see all the videotape or allowed to ask what was going on behind the scenes? NBC News recently reported that the January 6th committee would focus primarily on Trump and not any of the failures on the side of law enforcement. I don't think I've ever heard that before. Now that's oddly convenient, isn't it? If they really wanted to get to the bottom of why all this happened, why would you ignore part of the data? I'll just pose this question. Is it to conceal the fact that the FBI and DOJ have been weaponized against the American people? To this day, FBI Director Christopher Wray refuses to answer whether the FBI had sources dressed up as Trump supporters in the Capitol. Now, why wouldn't he do that? It was 2 years ago. And it's not at all suspicious, at all, that the FBI agent in charge of the discredited and thrown out Whitmer kidnapping case, a case where they had almost as many FBI informants than actual defendants, that guy was promoted to the Washington, D.C. field office during the January 6th investigation. Now, are we not supposed to go, wait a minute, say that to me again? Are we not supposed to ask questions when the FBI director refuses to answer the simple question of whether the FBI was acting shady with undercover MAGA lookalikes? Here's another question on January 6th that has gone all but silent. Who the heck, and I mean really, who the heck is Ray Epps? Now, this one is fascinating because the FBI doesn't want to talk about him. The January 6th committee really doesn't want to talk about him. Why? And why is the New York Times going out of their way to write puff pieces, appearing as though they're trying to convince people that there's nothing to see here with Ray Epps? They'll throw anyone under the bus that's wearing a MAGA hat. Why not this guy? Here's one that was written back in May. It called into question it called the questions surrounding the Ray Epps problem a conspiracy theory. If we only had a little video footage of Epps actually directing people to enter the Capitol, that would be one thing. But we do have that.
I'm going to put it out there. I'm probably going to go to jail for it, okay? Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. No! Peacefully. Fed.
Ha! Wow, that sounds pretty bad. Sounds like somebody the New York Times wouldn't be dismissing, but saying, we should give him life in prison. Now, Congressman Massey showed this to the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, and still he refused to answer, is he an agent? How many agents of the federal government were involved that day? In July, the New York Times wrote another piece on Ray Epps, again calling the questions all part of a conspiracy theory. This paragraph near the end is hilarious. Quote, Mr. Epps also said he regretted sending a text to his nephew well after the violence had erupted, in which he discussed how he helped to orchestrate the movements of people who were leaving Mr. Trump's speech near the White House by pointing them into the direction of the Capitol. That seems like an organizer, doesn't it? That seems like somebody that they're saying grandma is. Why isn't he charged? Why isn't he convicted in some huge show trial? They have the text messages. They have the video. But no. The very first January 6th rioter to be sentenced was a grandma from Indiana. What? See, this is how conspiracy theories grow. When things don't make sense and the person that you are worried about is hiding evidence or won't give you answers. Are we really expected in this day and age just to go along with the narrative that the FBI and the DOJ were caught completely off guard on the morning of January 6th? A few weeks ago, again, the New York Times reported that court filings revealed the FBI had 8 informants inside the Proud Boys in the months surrounding January 6th. So, wait, they have 8 informants? How was the government caught off guard from this seditious conspiracy? They had 8 people in the meetings. Are those 8 people just the worst FBI informants in history? Or were they, I don't know, in on it? Something stinks. Speaking of stinking, the biggest January 6th question of them all is so ridiculous, it's laughable. If it couldn't be compared to the Reichstag fire. I'll show it to you next. So when the alarm clock goes off in the morning and you open your eyes, what's the first thing you think of? Oh, bunny rabbits, lollipops. Yeah, no, it's usually ow, right? Am I right? If you have ever suffered from debilitating pain, I did with my hands, and I tried to do everything to get this to stop. No matter what I tried, it either whacked me out and I'm like, no, thank you, or this just didn't work. My wife started forcing me to, let's look at your health. She said, first thing you have to do to get rid of the pain, try this. And I'm like, honey, we've tried everything. It doesn't work. This is like reducing inflammation. That won't work. Really? He was right. Don't tell her about it. Relief Factor. It's not a drug, so it's not going to whack you out. But developed by doctors to fight inflammation, and you can see if it works for you in just their 3-week quick start. Try it for 3 weeks. Take it as directed. If you don't see any relief, stop taking it. But 70% of the people go on to order more. I'm one of them. ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4-RELIEF. 800-4-RELIEF or ReliefFactor.com. All right, so we're covering the 7 unsolved mysteries, these questions that must be asked and answered, or we will always have an out-of-control government. Perhaps the biggest mystery the government has refused to even attempt to answer, and the media for that matter, is who planted those ever so fortunate January 6 pipe bombs? That question has all but completely vanished. No one, besides outlets like Revolver News, has even remotely tried to look into it. Everything I gathered, everything I saw and read, we gathered it up, places like Revolver, American Greatness, and the actual statements from the government. We put it all on a timeline, and it doesn't really hit you unless you look at it as a timeline and then you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. The unsolved mystery of the pipe bomb has been used by the government to show that January 6th riot was part of a larger coordinated attack to kill people. The bombs were a diversion to get the Capitol Police away from the Capitol. That's what the Capitol Police chief testified. He said, quote, "We're dealing with 2 pipe bombs that were specifically set right off the edge of our perimeter to what I suspect draw resources away. I think there was significant coordination with this attack." Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so it's been a while. And there's so much that we just don't know about this. But here's what we do know. The FBI has video footage of the pipe bombs being placed from 7:30 in the morning to 8:30 the night before January 5th. The footage, there's the footage now. It's quite amazing. Good thing he was wearing that mask so he didn't spread COVID. All right, so we got all this footage. One bomb was placed at the bench at the DNC and the other in an alley by the RNC. Neither bomb was concealed. Does this bomb that was sitting under a park bench look at all like they were trying to hide it? Okay, so here's what happened. Pipe bombs were placed between 7:30 and 8:30. Now let's skip ahead to the next day. At 11:30 a.m. on January 6th, Kamala Harris was at the Capitol. She had been driven to the Capitol because she was supposed to sit there, sit in on the certification of her election in the Senate. But suddenly and unexpectedly, she decided to leave and go to the DNC. Wow, wait a minute. So she left the Capitol. No one knew this. The Secret Service didn't know this. She just like, hey guys, I got to go potty, and the only place I can go is the DNC. So they scramble and go to the DNC. Remember how poorly these pipe bombs are hidden. Now, the security sweep that would have happened would have been a full security sweep, the DNC, before she arrived. But let's just say they didn't have time because it was a surprise. She really had to go potty at the DNC. But none of the people that were there, no one, saw a bomb that was sitting in the open near the bench right in front of the front door. Not one bomb-sniffing dog took a whiff of explosives. No eagle-eyed guy in sunglasses is like, hold it! The eagle might be down. So, she goes on this surprise visit at 11:30. At 12:40, the first bomb was found. Now, it had an old-timey kitchen timer, okay? And somehow or another, this is so lucky, it stopped 20 minutes left on the timer. Now, let's put a pin in that one for a second because, we're going to come back to that. At 12:40 it's found. 9 minutes later, they alert the Capitol Police. Pipe bomb found. At 12:50, 1 minute later, the crowd arrives at the Capitol. Whoa. So this was something that was planned there. I mean, they put it there with a 1-hour kitchen timer the night before, and it was stuck with 20 minutes to go off, which they tell us that is scheduled for 1 p.m. That means the RNC pipe bomb frozen for exactly 20 minutes before the big vote. That's damning, huh? Especially considering that the bomb had a 1-hour timer and it was placed at 8 p.m. the night before. Wow. So the bomb, if legit, would have to go off the night before about 9 p.m. January 5th. How's that a diversion? It's not physically even possible. So at 1:07, the second pipe bomb was found at the DNC. Okay, so it's the day before. She's at the Capitol. She decides to leave at 11:30. They find the pipe bomb at 12:40. At 12:49, the Capitol Police. At 12:50, they breach the Capitol. She's still here eating cookies or, I don't know, freshening up her makeup, whatever she does. And then at 1:07, they find the pipe bomb outside of the building. And then they had to get her out of there. And you know how the FBI moves. You know, you find a bomb in a building and the vice president is there. Oh, man, that could take 7, 10, 12 minutes before you get her out of that building, you know. So was the bomber just lucky that all of this unfolded at the exact and perfect time possible? Or did the person planting the bomb know that they would be discovered at the most perfect time imaginable? Remember, if these bombs are legitimate, they were meant to be a diversion to coincide with a Capitol breach and the 1 p.m. vote. But we know that they would have gone off at around 9 p.m. the night before. Don't worry. It gets weirder. Oh, yeah, kids, it does. See, the one thing that could really help clear all this up is just the Secret Service communications. We just need a copy of the communications, what was said when. Oh man, the Secret Service, they want to provide that. The Capitol Police want to provide that. But they can't. Yeah, they missed the pipe bomb We're never going to get an answer to this or what happened with Kamala Harris or any of that because the Secret Service, it's an accident, erased their communications from January 5th and January 6th. I mean, what are the odds? Now, these are not the things that these are the things we're not supposed to question at all. We're just being like, oh, yeah, I get it. I get it. With today's technology and the Secret Service on one of the most important days, in fact, the most violent day ever in the history of the world, and it was that part of the communications that just went down. Wow. And it was happening at the most possible perfect time. That's weird. That's weird. And it was all due to the discovery of the first bomb at the RNC. So how was it found? Well, it was found by a woman, just a regular run-of-the-mill person, usually described as an employee of the Department of Commerce. Unfortunately, Julie Kelly at American Greatness looked into the resume a little more detail and found something, I don't know, interesting. The woman who found the bomb actually worked for a company called FirstNet. And just a couple of weeks before January 6th, they received a $92 million agreement with the FBI. Now, we took a look at FirstNet's board, and I'm sure that this is all on the up and up, even though there are multiple members of the Department of Justice, including Attorney General Merrick Garland. It also includes multiple members of the Department of Homeland Security, including Secretary Mayorkas. And what an amazing stroke of luck that their employee was the one that happened, so eagle-eyed. These people are so eagle-eyed that she stumbles upon it at the most perfect time with the timer stuck on 20 minutes before the congressional certification vote. I mean, if that is not an act of God or someone that is in the spiritual realm, maybe a little lower, I don't know what is. She's the first one to come across that. That doesn't even look like a pipe bomb with a kitchen timer. Well, it looks exactly like a pipe bomb with a kitchen timer, but, you know, I'm not a professional. To say questions abound on this would be the most massive understatements of the past few years. And making it all worse, Revolver News examined the CCTV footage. They discovered that the FBI edited the video that they released to the public. You know, the FBI and the police, they just have, it's funny because you have somebody who is shot while robbing a store at gunpoint and they're black, and you have that footage immediately everywhere. But the footage of Pelosi and the footage from January 6th, now they can't find it. It's just, I don't know what happened to it. I have this, but it's edited, but we had to edit it. Mm-hmm. They have the exact money shot of the bomber placing the DNC bomb. But they withheld that part. Now, why would they do that? Could it be they couldn't have the proof of a federal agent committing a crime on video? Or maybe there wasn't even a bomb there at all. I'm just asking questions. I just don't know. But this is what happens when a federal law enforcement agency selectively edits a video and then releases it with some very important context missing. And no one is out trying to find the bomber. Ray Epps, totally fine. We have him on video. We have the text message where he was encouraging. Don't worry about that. Nothing to see there. He's a good, solid human being with the MAGA hat urging people to go in. Nothing to see there. This, we can't find the video. I don't know who edited it. Probably happened on the weekend when, the higher-ups weren't around. Then we lost all the communication. We're not supposed to ask questions. The government seems to poof things out of existence lately. It's not normal. So The next question I think we have to ask is, what is in Biden's recent executive order that has been kept secret about elections? The government is stonewalling all FOIA requests. Why? How about this question? Whatever happened to the Dobbs Supreme Court leaker? I mean, how many people are in the office? Could it be that no one is interested because John Roberts knows who the leaker is? In fact, a lot of people on Capitol Hill know. This is just me spitballing here. That a lot of people on Capitol Hill know who the leaker was, but it was a Supreme Court justice that organized that. And it wasn't a conservative judge. And John Roberts just needs to bring everybody together because the Supreme Court is in such jeopardy. They can't find that. No. That Google can turn over the geolocation for about 7,000 people on January 6th. But going through and trying to find out who spilled the beans in the Supreme Court, between like 20 people, that's too complex. Another thing, what is the COVID origin story? Fauci is still testifying on COVID. China is still locking people down. People are rioting in the streets. Our economy is in the crap can. And yet, we just don't want to seem to find that answer. One more. What does Biden have planned for cryptocurrency? Which, by the way, they didn't mean to release it on a time where you weren't paying attention. They just thought you would be paying attention at 3 o'clock in the afternoon the day before Thanksgiving. What? Yeah, so they launched the central bank digital coin. Okay, what's the big deal? It's a Fed coin. But they're trying to do the impossible with this. They want to see if they can take digits, like a digital dollar, and then transform those or keep them in digits, and then move them to another bank. Now, this is really, I can't even imagine how you would do that. Because this isn't a dollar that they digitize and then move, to another bank like a bank transfer. Okay, there is no dollar. They have to figure out, can we do it without an actual dollar? They don't know. They just don't know. But they put it in, and they're starting testing it, and they didn't want to worry you. They didn't know you'd be distracted by Thanksgiving. So that's happening. Oh, I thought that was a conspiracy theory, too. I was going to say, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong on this. The federal government is being weaponized exactly the way Chip Roy was trying to warn us about just a couple of other days. The hints are in their secrets. The clues are in their cover-up. Ruling through the bureaucracy and executive order. That's all they have left now. And I'll show you what that might look like when we come back. Don't you wish the only thing that you really had to deal with was getting your kids to do homework? Homework where they weren't being told, I don't know, dude, maybe you're a chick. And you just worry about, hey, the dog's not really eating. Well, what should we do? I don't know. I heard about rough greens. Should we give it a try? Well, they're going to send you the free trial bag. Why not? What do we have to lose? It's free. Well, you have to pay for shipping, but that's it. And then I get a bag of this stuff and I can just try it for free. Yes. You still have to pay for shipping. Well, that's crazy. Wouldn't you love your life to be that simple? This is a supplement that you sprinkle on top of whatever you're feeding your dog. It's full of vitamins, minerals, probiotics, antioxidants, all the things that are good for dog, most likely in rough greens. Do the smart thing. You're going to have to pay for shipping. Did he say that already? Yeah, I think he did. Go to roughgreens.com/Beck or call 833-GLEN-33. Get your first bag free. It's a trial bag. You just pay for It's 833-GLEN-33. Call them today.
I've just signed a law that's being challenged by my Republican colleagues. If you qualify for a Pell Grant, you qualify for you qualify for $20,000 in debt forgiveness. Secondly, if you don't have one of those loans, you just get $10,000 written off. It's passed. I got it passed by a vote or two, and it's in effect.
Oh, it passed. I'm about to pass myself. Oop. I just passed there for a second. But I got it passed for a couple of votes.
No, you didn't. Canceling the student loan debt was never a proposed bill. It didn't go through the process. Remember, I'm a bill from Capitol Hill. Bill wasn't there. Like most of Joe Biden's actions as president, it was done by executive decree. More and more, you don't really need to control Congress to expand centralized state power. Congress has been so neutered by the growing executive branch that they're largely just window dressing now. When's the last time you actually saw them on the floor listening to each other and debating? Doesn't happen. The real power moves are happening in the back room, where the president is signing his executive orders. Now, this is the other side of the same deep state coin that I've been talking about. This is the Democrats' preferred way to build a deeper state. And they don't even try to hide it anymore. Earlier this year, the House Progressive Caucus sent President Biden a list of 8 demands. Whoa, executive action agenda. And they want him to accomplish all these things through executive orders. They called it their agenda for executive actions. And who could have seen this one coming? I liked it. Shut up. One of those 8 demands was canceling the federal student loan debt. Under Biden, executive orders have become a well-worn shortcut, and the progressives, yay, we love it. Recently, Senator Elizabeth Warren wrote in the New York Times, quote, "Where we can pursue legislative action, we should fight aggressively. When the Republicans try to obstruct such action, then the president can act by executive authority. He must." Oh, okay. That sounds good. No debate, no compromise, just our agenda or else. And what is the agenda? The agenda is to expand the already enormous powers of the agencies under the executive branch. A recent example of how this works is an executive order Biden signed last year promoting access to voting. Yes, we will have everybody voting. He ordered every government agency to come up with a plan within 200 days for how it would promote voter registration and participation. And then he put Obama's former national security advisor, who we all trust, Benghazi, Susan Rice, in charge of the effort. Now, through the order, Biden's hand-picked appointees in charge of federal agencies had to figure out how to use taxpayer money to register voters and promote mail-in voting. It also allowed them to pick approved third-party organizations to help with these get-out-the-vote activities. Now, I have a pretty big charity myself. We never got the ding-a-ling. They never called us. They call you? Part of the order directed Attorney General Merrick Garland to work with the Federal Bureau of Prisons and the U.S. Marshals Service to, quote, facilitate voter registration for all eligible individuals in custody of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. This is great. It requires the jails to facilitate voting by mail. In September, Susan Rice announced some of the unprecedented steps that states are taking under Biden's executive order. She noted, for example, how this year, Kansas and New Mexico each designated a Native American college in their state as a voter registration agency under the National Voter Registration Act. This ensured that the students at these colleges would automatically be registered to vote when they enrolled at school. Overall, Native American voters clearly support Democrats for Congress. Susan Rice also announced that the General Services Administration has guidelines for how federally owned public buildings could be used by, quote, nonpartisan groups to perform voter registration drives. I didn't get that memo, did you? Turns out Team Biden just didn't come up with these get out the vote schemes on their own. No, Papa's sleeping. The very specific blueprint for Biden's executive order came from a group called Demos. Sounds very nonpartisan. They had the idea in December 2020. Demos receives financial backing from a laundry list of far-left groups like George Soros, Open Society, blah, 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 and the Tides Foundation, and Bill and Melinda Gates. What an amazing coincidence. The guy in charge of the voting rights advocacy at Demos then got hired to work at the White House just a month after Biden took office. I guess he wasn't happy there. Now, this is a very common problem. When the hardcore left-wing activists really want something, they lobby the White House for an executive order, and they always seem to get it. Biden has been in office for less than 2 years. He has already issued 103 executive orders, an average of one per week. He issued 77 in his first year alone, almost double Obama's first year. It's the highest one-year total of any president since Jimmy Carter in 1979, and what a dream he was. Biden's executive orders are a massive problem because they carry the force of law. I don't want them from Donald Trump, and I don't want them from Ron DeSantis, and I don't want them from this president. As the American Bar Association explains, executive orders, quote, require no approval from Congress, and Congress simply cannot overturn them. Congress may pass legislation that might make it difficult or even impossible to carry out the order, such as removing funding, if we had a budget. But only a sitting U.S. president may overturn an existing executive order by issuing another executive order to that effect. If we could just get like somebody, I don't know, with a cool name, makes me think of Linguini, like a Mussolini. Mussolini, Linguini, and I'm going to take power for a long time. Gee, isn't that what they just did in China? Each document often contains multiple specific orders. For example, one of the 9 executive orders Biden signed for his first day as president required 40 distinct actions. Forget preserving and defending the Constitution. I mean, what is that, a Post-it note? What is that? Biden's been busy making left-wing fantasy come true through executive orders and crippling America in the process. He crippled our nation's energy supply with orders canceling the Keystone XL pipeline, suspending drilling leases in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Since then, he's drained our strategic petroleum reserve to the lowest level since 1984. But don't worry, we're just on the edge of nuclear war. And just this past weekend, he reduced sanctions on Venezuela's dictatorship to allow Chevron to go in there and pump some more oil. So he's helping the Marxists and big oil. He crippled our southern border by stopping construction on the border wall, and he ended the Remain in Mexico policy. As a result, U.S. Border Protection apprehended over 2 million migrants this year, the most in history. It beats the previous record of 1.72 million set in his first year in office. Again, these are major energy and immigration policy changes that carry the force of law with zero involvement from you or Congress. He has gone out of his way to define the Supreme Court's abortion decision, signing an executive order to maintain as much abortion access as possible, setting up mobile clinics near border states that limit abortion, and, of course, creating a new White House task force on reproductive health care. Naturally, the left and the media adore all of this. When was the last time you saw People magazine feature a president signing an executive order? I've never seen it. Well, they just did it. And just 2 weeks ago, Biden combined 2 of the Democrats' first love, abortion and illegal immigration, by issuing an executive directive that pregnant migrant children must be sheltered in states that have abortion access. Speaking of children, Biden's executive orders have created outrageous transgender policies aimed at your kids. During his very first week in office, he signed an order declaring support for boys participating in girls' sports as girls. On Transgender Day of Visibility, I still haven't taken my tree down from that, he mandated that the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration release new information that provides confirming that, quote, providing gender-affirming care is neither child maltreatment nor malpractice. Amen to that, brother. Just lop it off. 6, 8, 12, doesn't matter. And in June, he signed an executive order expanding access to sex change treatments for kids. Isn't that great? This is the President of the United States racing to codify a form of disgusting child abuse and to shut down any objections. The left is done with old-fashioned ideas like the Constitution and the legislative process. They say they're all about fixing and saving democracy. Democracy actually is what the final fix is for a republic. In reality, what they're doing is deconstructing our representative republic brick by brick and using Biden, Weekend at Bernie style, to replace it with progressive insanity. More on another group leading this effort next. Do you remember when you first bought your first home and how long you had dreamt about, I'm going to have my own house and it's going to be great. I want to put the furniture here, and then the closing happened. You never think at that point about, oh, crap. What am I going to do if things get tough? Okay, you might be able to make your home payment, but so many people now in America are putting the rest of their life on a credit card, and it's going to get really bad because interest rates for credit cards, some of them are already up to 25%. If you're anywhere near that, 18, 20%, it's going to get worse. What do? Well, take the value of that house right now and roll it into a consolidation loan. Pay off all of those debts. Yeah, you're still going to have to pay off the debts. You're still going to roll them over and paying for them, but you're only paying maybe 5% interest instead of 25% interest. The average person that calls American Financing right now is saving, I think, $695 every single month. Please, it's a family-owned business. I've done business with them for almost 20 years. Call American Financing at 800-906-2440 or go to americanfinancing.net. President Biden likes to remind everybody of the glorious 200 years he spent as a U.S. Senator. And with that background, you'd think he'd be a little more interested in preserving the legislative branch he seemed to love so much. Instead, Biden is ruling by executive order. Last month, Biden signed an order extending the federal COVID emergency through January of next year. Why would he do that when he admitted the pandemic is over? Easy. It expands Medicaid coverage. As long as an official public health emergency exists, states cannot clear their rolls of ineligible Medicaid enrollees. Medicaid enrollment has increased 26% during the first 2 years of the pandemic. Socialized medicine is here, kids, and it will likely grow at even more now under the Biden White House, which has plans to include, quote, health-related social needs as part of Medicaid coverage. Massachusetts, Oregon already been approved to have their Medicaid cover things like rent, furniture, meals, air conditioning, air purifiers. This is socialism, and you're paying for it. You remember voting for that? Because I don't. There's a secretive group called Governing for Impact. It's working to implement socialist policy through Biden's executive orders. No surprise that GFI gets millions of dollars of funding from who else? George Soros or his groups, or that the executive director of Open Society US is also on the 4-person GFI board of directors. GFI is also plugged into the massive left-wing dark money network run by Elibera Advisors. That's the umbrella group that I did a whole episode on earlier this year, which you can check out at blazetv.com. Really important that you know these people. because they were involved in the last election heavily. GFI avoids having to file tax forms with the IRS through being fiscally sponsored by the New Venture Fund and the 1630 Fund. New Venture is the oldest and largest fund in Arabella's network. It is also the fund that most closely associates with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. GFI calls itself, quote, a regulatory policy shop for the progressive movement. Where's ours? After the 2020 election, GFI recruited students from Harvard's law school to come up with some legal policies. They wanted some internships. The recruitment ad said GFI was created to prepare the Biden White House for, quote, transformative governance. To accomplish that, GFI has prepared over 50 legal policy memos on how to tailor executive orders related to education, the environment, healthcare, housing, labor, nutrition, agriculture, policing, the Treasury, and voting, all without you having to worry about it. All within the executive branch where orders and regulations can fly under the radar. Again, all of this regulatory work goes completely around your representative in Congress and you. GFI posted a list of multiple federal officials who participated in the listening tour, including Sharon Block, who was Biden's top regulation review chief, until she left in February to become a professor at Harvard Law School. It's the progressive circle of life. Internal memos show GFI boasting about getting Biden administration to take action on more than 20 of its agenda items so far. These people do not believe in democracy or a republic. They believe in an autocracy. That's what the progressive movement has always been about. Every year since 1893, on George Washington's birthday, since 1796, his farewell address, that's when it was started, it's read aloud on the Senate floor. But nobody's there to even listen anymore, and why should you? It's an old dusty Whig guy. He said this would happen. Maybe we should listen. Quote, the habits of thinking in a free country should inspire caution in those entrusted with its administration to confine themselves within their respective constitutional sphere, avoiding in the exercise of powers one department to encroach upon another. The spirit of encroachment tends to consolidate the powers of all of the departments in one, and thus create, whatever the form of government, a real despotism. Back in a minute. More on this on radio and the podcast tomorrow. We'll see you then. From Dallas, good night, America.